Mr. Rincon, as a representative of both Cricket Phone Company and AT&T and a records custodian, are you familiar with how the subscriber information is kept on these records?
Yes, I am.
And how are those subscriber records kept?
Same thing in a secure database. When you sign up with our company, we capture that information, which is then put into our secure database.
And how is that subscriber information linked to a certain subscriber? How are you able to put a number with a person?
Basically, when you sign up with our company, you're giving us your personal information. You're given a phone number at that time when you sign up, if it's a new service or maybe you've ported over from another carrier. That phone number then is in your account, your customer account that links your name with that phone number.
And when you receive requests for information or an affidavit for a particular number, are you familiar with how that subscriber information is pulled for that request?
Not specifically. Our compliance team is the one who pulls that information.
And once they pull that information, what, if anything, is done next with it?
Simply whatever the request for the affidavit was, they'll send it over based on the party that requested it.
And how are those records verified that that belongs to the subscriber who the request has been made of?
I don't quite understand the question.
How is the compliance department, how do they certify to you that those copies are what you requested?
Basically, this is kind of like what I said when we capture the information up front. All of that customer's information is going to be stored with that phone number, which is stored with their name. So when they pull it based on the phone number that's associated to that customer.
The Cricket database that you have is there, how many parts of the system are there? I understand that there's the subscriber information and
Correct.
there's the data information.
Yes.
And the subscriber information, is that housed with Cricket?
Yes, it is housed with Cricket. I am not aware of whether, I mean, AT&T has access to all of that stuff owning Cricket, but Cricket is its own such a subsidiary that manages that stuff as well.
And before you came into court, were you able to look at these records?
I was.
And were you able to verify that these are the records that are regularly kept in the course of your business with Neustar, AT&T, and Cricket?
Yes, they are.
And from this information, were you able to verify that the phone number for the subscriber matched the phone number information for the call records that were given?
Yeah, correct. Both from an originating, since these are text messages, there are instances in which the originating number or the text message came from this phone number represented here, as well as they received text messages.
And that subscriber, is there, when you get the request for the subscriber number, were you able to verify that that affidavit was to the number that was requested?
Yes.
And from that, were you able to know who that subscriber was?
Yes, correct.
And who was that subscriber?
Carlos Riley.
And what was that phone number?
That phone number is 919-519-9896.
Your Honor, that would be the questions of this witness.
Thank you. Mr. Torrance, questions of Mr. Rincon.
Good morning, Mr. Rincon.
Good morning.
And I understand you work for AT&T.
Correct.
You don't work for Cricket, but they're a subsidiary of
Correct.
AT&T.
Yes.
And you don't work for Neustar.
Correct. I do not work for Neustar.
Okay. And I thought earlier when the jury was here, you said something about they were a third-party vendor of Cricket.
Neustar, so AT&T, we have a compliance team that gathers these records for us, right, stored in that secure database. Cricket does the same thing, but the company that does that for them is Neustar, which is a third-party company. They do not have their own compliance department from these records, I can see.
Okay, so because you're at AT&T, you don't work for Newstar, and then Cricket contracts with Newstar?
Correct, for gathering this kind of data, like compliance type thing.
Thank you. Your Honor, can I approach the witness, take a look at that exhibit?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
And his customer name, and this is exhibit, states exhibit 34, Carlos Riley,
Mhm.
correct? And it doesn't have, do you know whether it's Carlos Riley Jr. or Senior?
That would only depend on how the customer's information was captured at point of signing up, whether the customer told the salesperson or whoever he signed up with to add Junior to his name.
Yeah, but what the information you have and what you can testify about is about Carlos Riley. correct?
That's what I can see right here, correct?
But as far as you've never worked for Newstar, correct?
Correct.
And you've never worked with Newstar's compliance, how they do their job?
Correct.
So if I understand you correctly, you're saying that you understand your job, you know this information ends up in your computer, correct?
Correct.
Okay. But you don't have information about the security of Newstar or whether there's any, you don't work for them?
I do not work for Newstar, no.
Your Honor, that would be my questions, and if you'd like to hear from me briefly, I'd be happy to.
In just a moment. Any other questions from the city?
Yes. Your
All right.
Honor. As records custodian, when you regularly, in the course of your business, gather these records for admission to a court or a different
Mhm.
agency who requests them, is this the steps that you generally take through Newstar?
When it comes to Cricket, yes.
And so that's the general mode of operation that your company does
Mm-hmm.
for fulfilling affidavits for these?
When it's related to a Cricket subscriber, correct.
Thank you. No further questions. Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Charles, any additional questions?
No additional questions.
Thank you. For my clarification, what you have in front of you, you mentioned that they were text
Mm-hmm. Text message records.
All right. And so did you say that information, like when the text message is done, is it captured? Is this information like captured at that
Just
time?
the phone number of the originating text message and the receiver, as well as the time. None of the information, like the words of the text, are stored.
Right. But that information you had in front of you is captured at the time you...
Correct.
Anybody else have any other questions?
Nothing from the state, Your Honor.
Nothing for the defense.
Thank you. Wait with me there, Mr.
Mhm.
Yes, Mr. Charles, your objection.
The objection is that this gentleman, while he is knowledgeable about what AT&T does and how things come from Cricket, the folks at Newstar are the ones that are collecting this. So their business record custodian might be able to say how they do these things, but the fact that something ends up in my computer doesn't mean I get to say, how this is all taken care of. So that's really, we're 2 steps removed, and I can't cite to you the Court of Appeals decision, but there's a recent decision not that far off that happened in the last couple of months that talked about proving these type of things. It wasn't for these type of records, it was other types of records. But again, having, just like the chain of custody, you couldn't say, well, I know someone else put something in the mail because they told me they did to the lab in Raleigh. We would need the person that did it, and the person that did it, or the entity, would be Newstar, and they're not here. And then it's really a proof issue. Carlos Riley Jr., that's the issue for the jury. But the issue of, as the gatekeeper, I'm objecting the fact we don't have the new Star folks who are the ones that collected it. So, again, we're twice removed because we have AT&T, we have Cricket, and we have New Star. So that's the basis of my objection. I just don't think it's tied up.
Thank you, Mr. Chalmers. Ms. Ellis?
Your Honor, authentication of business records is normally authenticated through a witness who is familiar with the business records and the system under which they are made. He stated that he is familiar with both his system and the fact that they go through Newstar to request this. There is no requirement that the records be authenticated by the person who actually made them or the entity who actually made them. That is State versus Wilson, 313 North Carolina 516. In cases of computer records, the witness should be familiar with computerized methods and under which they were made to satisfy some of those information. He stated that he knows enough to know that they're contemporaneously made at the time and that what is stored is the time, the date, and the numbers that are interacted with them. And he also stated that he is familiar with these records. He has seen them before. These are made during the regular course of his business, and this is his business procedure when he fulfills these records. Your Honor, proof of the writing's authenticity need not be completely conclusive. And that's State versus Crawley, a 2011 case. That would be 217 North Carolina Act 509. And, Your Honor, that's the state.
Thank you. What the court finds here on voir dire is that we're concerned with records of regularly conducted business activity under Rule 8036 of the North Carolina Rules of Evidence. The court finds these are the types of records that are covered by that rule, even though they're initially in an electronic or let's say format and then converted into a typewritten format here for the exhibit, that the information captured on those records was captured at or near the time of the event, that is the actual text that AT&T owns Cricket. Cricket is a subsidiary of AT&T that the two companies have an integrated business relationship, although AT&T has its own compliance team and Cricket as a subsidiary contracts out the compliance. That means the capturing of the data and inputting into the computer system this data that has been captured. That AT&T, however, has as the owner of Cricket, is a proper business to have access to these records, and so therefore it follows that it's made in the regular course of business of Cricket. Therefore, as a whole, the owned subsidiary of AT&T, it's in the wholly owned subsidiary regular course of business as well. That Mr. Rincon is a person who has knowledge about the gathering of this information at this stage. That is taking information that's been inputted into the captured and inputted into the secure data system, and he decides that it was a secure data system that he's appointed to have take that information out and put it into this exhibit form that we have in front of us now. So it's made in the course of ordinary course of business. That there is not an indication that there is a lack of trustworthiness of this information. The weight of this information is certainly fodder for the jury and questions on cross-examination. I do find that Mr. Rincon is a qualified witness or custodian within these types of records. of Cricket through its owner, AT&T. Consequently, the court finds that these do qualify as records of regularly conducted business activity, and I'm going to overrule the objection. Although there may be a number of questions to ask, that'll be up to counsel to decide what questions to ask and what questions not to ask. But as far as qualifying for admission, the court finds that it does meet the criteria of Rule 803-6. Anything else other than the exception we need to address as to these records? Anything from the state?
No.
Understand.
Briefly, in addition to the business records tying up objection, I just throw in hearsay about this other corporation, which he admitted he doesn't know anything about other than it ends up in his file. Now, that's just to add on hearsay.
Thank you. We'll note that ground. I mean, you did make me aware of that earlier, so we just make sure that the record's clear that that was part of the grounds that were served. All right. Anything before we have the jury return?
Nothing from the state, Your Honor.
All right. Sheriff, we'll get the jury back in, please. All right, let the record reflect all our jurors are back in their seats. Objections overruled. Next question.
Thank you. Now, as the records custodian, are you also able to determine the subscriber information from the records, from a phone number?
Yes.
And how is that stored in your system?
We have a database, like what I was saying earlier, when you sign up with us. Once we capture that information, it's stored in our secure database.
Okay.
Basically, we ask for personal information, name, address, social security number, and depending on, again, we either give you a phone number, or if you have an existing phone number from another carrier that you port over, that you can keep that same number. But that's pretty much.
Thank you. Your Honor, at this time, I'd like to introduce State's Exhibit Number 34 into evidence as a business record.
Same objection.
Thank you. The objection's overruled. State's Exhibit Number 34 is admitted.
And, sir, could you tell me, did you receive a request from the law enforcement for a particular number in this case?
Well, this subscriber right here gathered his information for the dates listed 11/1/2012 to 12/25/2012. 11/1/2012 to 12/25/2012 for the subscriber I mentioned.
And what was that number that was requested?
919-519-9896. That's the target, so essentially anything going in to that number or out from that number.
And were you able to identify the subscriber to that number?
Yes, his name is listed here as Carlos Riley.
And can you tell me how those records, the incoming and outgoing messages, how they're recorded in those tax logs?
Yeah, so there's the first column here is the date and time. then 2 columns over, you see the originating address. That's going to be where the text message or the number the text message came from. And then next to that is the destination address, is the number that the text message went to.
Your Honor, permission to have him publish one of those pages and instruct the jury on how to read those documents?
Allow?
So this is this first column here is going to be your date and time. This middle column right here is going to be the originating address or phone number in which the text message was created and sent out on. And this destination address right here is going to be the number that received that actual text message. So you will see the subscriber's phone number ending in 9896 in both columns, depending on whether they sent or received that text message.
Thank you.
I believe that.
Your Honor, the state has no further questions for this witness.
Thank you. Mr. Charles, questions of Mr. Rincon?
Thank you. Good morning, Mr. Rincon.
Morning.
Just let me see, I'm clear, you work for AT&T,
Correct.
and Cricket's a subsidiary, and this, is that right? The court report's taking it down, so,
Yes, they are.
thank you. And Newstar is a vendor that's a third party, correct?
From my understanding, they're a third-party team that essentially, when we come to them with compliance operations like this, they are the one compile it and send it to us. With AT&T, we employ our own compliance team.
So, you've never worked for Newstar, correct?
Correct.
And so, this information ends up in your computer, correct?
I received this from our AT&T compliance team, in which they work with the compliance team at Newstar.
But you're not on the compliance team, are you?
No. I'm simply a custodian of records.
And those, this, what you have in front of you is text messages alone, is that correct?
Correct.
So it's not, if there was a phone call, it wouldn't show up on there?
No, we would have a separate, essentially, sheet of phone calls made.
Okay. But would it be the same process? It would be Newstar, or does another vendor do that, or do you not know?
I don't know specifically. I would imagine it is Newstar.
Okay. But you're the person that, your area is text messages and responding to subpoenas?
The records I have here are text messages. I am a custodian of records, so I have also seen call records. They look very similar to this, basically just to validate that these are in with what is the incoming and outgoing numbers, date and time.
Okay. And so what that shows there is someone from that phone texted another phone, and it doesn't show who had possession of the phone or anything like that. It's basically just electronically showing what phone did it come from, where did it go to?
Correct. So it could be, various numbers depending on if the subscriber is texting out or in. But yeah, it doesn't state who the actual individual was. It just shows the phone number.
Okay. And that's what's up on the screen?
Yeah, correct. Those two middle columns, the longer ones, are the phone numbers going out, that it came from, and that it was received by.
Okay. In terms of those dates and times, you don't work for Newstar, so in terms of
Correct.
the accuracy of the exact timing, you can't speak to that?
I cannot speak to that.
All right. Thank you, sir. Your Honor, that would be the defense questions at this time.
Other questions, Ms. Tellis?
No other questions for this witness at this time, Your Honor.
And you're offering that exhibit?
Your Honor, I am offering that exhibit, and I would like to publish that at this time.
Same objection.
Thank you. Objection is overruled. State's exhibit number 34 is admitted. At this time, Mr. Rincon, you're free to
Should I grab these?
Yes. Your Honor, permission to have Mr. Rincon released from his subpoena.
Any objection?
No objection.
You're released from subpoena, Mr. Rincon. Thank you, sir.
Your Honor, permission to have these briefly published to the jury?
Allow?
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, we're going to circulate a single exhibit here. Remember my instructions previously. Get it, look at it as long as you want to, quietly, individually, without comment. And then after you review to the extent you're satisfied you want to review it, pass it on to your neighbor. After it's passed around, we'll gather it back. There's no comments, particularly no comments or anything audible about it. Just keep talking to yourself right now. Thank you very much. Thank you, Sheriff. All right. Call your next witness, please.
Your Honor, this time we'll call Officer McFadden to the stand.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you shall now give before in the case now being heard shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Could you please introduce yourself to the jury?
Yes. My name is William McFadden.
And how are you employed?
I'm employed with the Durham Police Department. I'm the digital forensic specialist.
And how long have you held the position of digital forensic specialist?
Approximately 7 years.
And how were you previously employed?
I was a police officer with the Durham Police Department.
And how long were you a police officer before you switched over and went to the digital forensics unit?
For about 8 years.
Now, tell me about the training that you did to become a digital forensics expert.
I've been to several classes. For computers, I went to the National White Collar Crime Center. Took several classes to include basic data recovery and acquisition, intermediate data and acquisition. I went to the American Academy of Applied Forensics at the Central Piedmont Community College. There I took classes on basic computer forensics and intermediate computer forensics. For cell phones, I also went to the Academy of Applied Forensics at the Central Piedmont Community College. I did their basic cell phone examination class, their mobile phone seizure and examination using the Cellebrite. Also went to their advanced cell phone forensics class. I also went to the Alvarez and Marshall. They do training for computer and cell phone forensics. I did their course on Cellebrite forensics. It was a certification course, and I was actually certified to use Cellebrite.
And when you're talking about a Cellebrite, could you explain that to the jury and tell them what it does and how you use it in your daily operation?
Yes, the Cellebrite is a device that will pull off or extract information from a cell phone. There's 3 different kinds of extractions. They have a logical extraction, a file system extraction, and a physical extraction. The physical extraction will get a full dump of the phone. It will get all the memory on the phone. Excuse me. A file system extraction will get the files and folders from the phone, and it will present that in different files and folders. Then you can go in and find the text messages and contacts and stuff like that. For a logical extraction, the Cellebrite will go in and it knows for the different kind of phones where to find the contacts or text messages, call logs and stuff like that. And so it will actually go into the files and just pull out that data.
And how, you said to extract or pull out this data, how then is that data stored to something that you can look at or transfer over as evidence?
When I get the information off the phone, I store it onto a flash drive. I make up a report for the investigator, and then that report is actually copied to a disk for them.
And is there any other ways that you use to investigate what is on a cell phone that is recovered?
Yes, if a cell phone is not supported by the Cellebrite, or if it has some damage, or we can't get the information off the cell phone electronically, I use the Fernico system, which basically takes photographs of the data on the phone screen.
And you also stated that you do with digital evidence as far as videos.
Yes, yes.
And can you tell me your training experience with that?
Yes, I went to the Signalscape Star Witness. They had several trainings for video recovery and analysis, video restoration and enhancement, and then I was also certified with their products.
And And during your course of employment, how, are you ever asked to retrieve video information?
Yes.
And what, if anything, do you do when you are asked to retrieve video information?
Depending on the type of digital video recorder that a place may have, the video, if they have the DVR has a USB port, then the video can be copied from the DVR to a USB. If it only has a disk drive, then it could be copied to a CD or DVD. Once I get that, I will bring it back to my office. If it's on a USB drive, then I'll copy it to a CD or DVD for the investigator. And if I bring it back on a CD or DVD, then I'll make a copy for the investigator.
Thank you, Your Honor. At this time, the state would tender this individual as an expert in digital forensics.
Your Honor, may I ask a few questions?
Yes, sir, I was getting ready to say, if you want to ask some questions on the law here.
Thank you. Good morning, Officer McFadden.
Good morning.
And how many years were you a police officer?
Approximately 8.
8. With the Durham Police Department?
Yes.
And in those 8 years, did you know Officer Stewart or coming into contact with him?
Not while I was a police.
Yes. Hold on a second. Thank you. The objection is sustained. The objection is sustained. And back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Can I say, I liked your first answer better.
Yeah. Thunder.
Yes. Officer McFadden, you're still, in your job, you're referred to as an officer, or you referred in a different way?
I'm actually not sworn anymore, so I'm no longer an officer.
Okay. Not sworn, that was one other question. So, in going through your, were you reading something during your direct examination as far as your resume and your CV?
Yes.
Can I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. May I take this with me and sit, or should I?
You certainly can, but he is certainly, as with every witness, is entitled to have it in front of him if you're asking questions about it. So if it's more convenient for you to stand there, we'll sort of make the general exception to that attorneys sit at their tables to allow both of you to have access to the document. That's what you wish.
May I stand here and ask questions? May I stand and ask questions?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor.
That's what all that
Great.
I said was intended to convey, was that you could stand there and ask questions.
and I might have missed this, but you went to Carolina.
Yes, sir.
As part of your current job, do you receive any instruction in testimony in court?
Currently, do I?
Yes.
We may have training that through the department on testifying in court.
And I was looking to see if you received any training at the FBI Academy in Quantico.
I did not.
And again, I see you went to Carolina.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Oh, I see some other notes that you testified from those yet.
Have I testified from these
Those
notes?
other notes?
No, sir.
Okay, I'll step back. Not simply because he went to Carolina, Your Honor, but I will sit down now and we have no objection.
Thank you. The court finds that Mr. McFadden is an expert in digital forensics. Ms. Ellis, your question.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now, sir, you stated that you've been in it as a digital specialist for a number of years. Were you so employed on duty on December 19th, 2012?
Yes.
And do you recall responding to the Foxfire Apartments on that day?
Yes, I did.
And can you tell me why you were called out there?
Corporal McMaster had requested that video surveillance be retrieved from this location.
And what, if anything, did you do once you received that request?
When we got to the Foxfire Apartments, I went to the office that they had their system contained in. I looked at the system and their video surveillance system was actually not recording. So no video was retrieved from this location.
Thank you. And did you receive any other requests from Investigator McMaster?
Yes.
And what was that?
That was to examine 4 different cell phones.
And were you able to determine who those cell phones came from?
I received the cell phones from Allison Hutchins at the Durham Police Department's Forensics Lab.
And what were you asked to do with those phones?
To get any data off the phones, Investigator or Corporal McMaster was especially interested in calls, text messages, and contacts from the date of December 18th, 2013. I'm sorry, December 18th, 2012.
And what, if anything, did you do in order to fulfill his request?
For the cell phones, I first wrap the cell phones in a shielding mesh. What the shielding mesh does is make sure that the cell phone does not get a cell signal when I power the phone on. I then powered the phone on. For each cell phone, I activated the phone's airplane mode. The airplane mode does the same thing. It keeps the cell phone from receiving a signal while the examination is going. I then use the Cellebrite to get any data that could be obtained from the phone. And then the Fernico system was also used to photograph data on the cell phones.
And what did you do once you used the Cellbrite and then the Fernico? What did you do with that data?
The data from the phones was put onto a disk for Corporal McMaster. A copy of the disk was also placed to be turned into the Durham Police Department's Property and Evidence Unit.
And can you tell me how the evidence is stored and how it's transferred to you when such a request is made?
Transferred to me.
Yes.
It can be different ways. Either an item may be retrieved from a location and stored in the temporary property evidence unit at the forensics department. Investigators will also bring a cell phone, and if I'm not in the office when they arrive, they will leave the cell phone with another person in the office, such as Allison Hutchins, until I return.
And do you recall how you received the cell phones that you looked on this particular day?
I received three of the cell phones from Allison Hutchins, or 3 of the cell phones from Allison Hutchins on this day. Yes.
Had they been packaged?
They were not packaged. No.
Were they packaged subsequently?
Yes.
And do you recall who they were subsequently packaged by?
I believe it's Tanisha Jones, but I'm not positive.
Now, with these cell phones, you stated that you were also able to evaluate some of the information on each of them. Could you describe the 3 phones that you initially received?
Yes.
from Allison?
One of the cell phones was a ZTE MSG M82. The model number is A310. The next cell phone is a Huawei M615 cell phone, and the third phone was a LG Optimus S LS670 cell phone.
And were you advised, or were you able to establish who was what the number for the ZTE MSG A310 was?
Yes, that phone number was 919-519-9896.
And were you able to establish the phone number for the M16 or M15, M615?
It is I do not have that phone number in my notes.
And the phone number, were you able to find any contacts that were listed with the number 919-519-9896 in the review of all of these phones?
Yes, it was in the contacts on the Huawei phone with the name Los.
And you stated that you digitally photographed some of the messages between the 2 phones.
Yes.
And through those contacts, were you able to see any incoming or outgoing phone calls to the 919-519-9896 number?
I do not recall. It's in the report that I developed, but I don't have that report here, so.
Would you recall the photos that you took?
Yes.
Permission to approach, Your Honor?
Yes, ma'am.
38, 37, 36, and 35.
May I, approach briefly?
Yes.
Consult my client before we go forward. Now, can we approach with the court reporter?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Well. And I'm noticing that it seems to be 11:13. I don't know if anyone needs a comfort break, but I would like one. Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take our mid-morning recess right now for 15 minutes. While everyone else remains seated, we'll remind the jury that do not communicate with each other, anyone else about the case. Do not allow anyone to talk about the case in your presence. Do not talk to and have any contact with any parties, attorneys, or witnesses. Do not conduct any investigation or receive any reports or information related to the case of any sort. And of course, do not form or express an opinion about the case. With all that being said, while everyone else remains seated, the jury is excused for 15 minutes recess. Thank you. We're outside of the presence of the jury. Any matters we need to address while the jury's out before we take our mid-morning recess?
Nothing from the state, Your Honor.
Nothing further to come.
Thank you, Sheriff. We're going to recess 15 minutes.
Court's in recess 15 minutes.
Mr.
I appreciate it.
No problem.